Marcus and Jamie are both 38. Same city. They graduated around the same time, got their first real jobs within a year of each other, made almost identical salaries at 22. They live about 12 minutes apart right now. On a Saturday morning, Marcus opens his investment app while his coffee is brewing, glances at the number, $187,000, and closes it. Not because anything's wrong, he just doesn't need to check it that often anymore. It goes up on its own. He spent the morning deciding between increasing his monthly contribution or saving for a trip. He decided to do both. This is the kind of problem he has now. Jamie, 12 minutes away, is sitting at the kitchen table staring at a credit card balance that went from $3,200 in January to $6,800 in August. Nothing dramatic happened, no emergency, no vacation, just life. Somehow costing more than it used to. Jamie makes good money, he just doesn't know where it goes. Same age, same starting line. Marcus has $187,000 compounding quietly in the background. Jamie has $6,800 in debt and a plan to sort it out after the holidays. My name is Nick, and I've spent way too much time staring at the data on when Americans actually hit $100,000, $500,000, and $1 million, and more importantly, why those milestones arrive at wildly different ages for people who started from the same place. If that gap has ever confused or frustrated you, make sure to subscribe because we're about to run the real numbers. Before we get into the milestones, we need to deal with the data because the way American wealth gets reported is almost perfectly designed to make most people feel worse about themselves than they should, while simultaneously letting them off the hook in ways they shouldn't be. The Federal Reserve publishes something called the Survey of Consumer Finances every 3 years. It's the gold standard for household wealth data in the US, and the 2022 edition, the most recent one available, leads with a number that sounds genuinely impressive. The average net worth of an American household is $1,063,700. There are YouTube thumbnails being made about that sentence right now. The average American is a millionaire, which is technically true the same way it's true that if Bill Gates walks into a bar, everyone in the bar is a billionaire on average. The average is being dragged upward by a small number of households with extraordinary wealth, and it tells you almost nothing about what typical Americans actually have. The number that tells the real story is the median, $192,700. That's the household in the exact middle of the distribution. Half of America has more, half has less, and unlike the average, the median can't be hijacked by the guy with $300 million at the end of the spreadsheet. The gap between those two numbers is a 5.5 to 1 ratio. That ratio is the fingerprint of how concentrated American wealth is. The top 10% of households hold about 67% of all wealth. The top 1% alone controls nearly 32%, around $55 trillion, while the bottom 50% holds less than 4% of everything. So whenever you see average net worth cited somewhere, I'll mentally replace it with what the top 20% is doing. It'll almost always be a more accurate translation. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Median net worth by age under $35,000, $39,040, ages 35 to 44, $135,100, ages 45 to 54, $246,400, ages 55 to 64, $364,260. And the peak, ages 65 to 74, right at the retirement line, $410,000. Let that last number sit for a second. $410,000. After 40 plus years of working, raising families, paying mortgages, doing everything the system told them to do, the median American household hits the finish tape with $410,000. At a standard 4% withdrawal rate, that generates about $16,400 per year. Combined with Social Security, you can get by. But it is not the number people picture when they imagine retirement. And it means that for most households, $500,000 isn't a milestone. It's a ceiling they'll spend their entire lives trying to reach and come up short of. Keep that in mind as we go through each level. The $100,000 milestone. Why this one changes everything. Most personal finance content treats $100,000 as a celebration milestone, something you post about, maybe cry about a little in a video with piano music in the background. And look, it is worth celebrating, but the reason it matters isn't the number itself. It's what the number does to the physics of wealth building. At $100,000 invested, something structurally changes. Until you understand what that change is, you can't understand why getting there quickly is so much more important than people realize. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's business partner, a man who spent his career watching money compound, had a famous quote about this. He said, the first $100,000 is he used a word I can't repeat on YouTube, but it rhymes with which, and that you have to get there no matter what it takes. Walk everywhere. Use coupons for everything. Find a way. Buffett added that the trick is to give it a very long hill, meaning start very young or plan on living to be very old. Here's the math that makes both of them right. Investing $10,000 per year at 7% annual returns going from 0 to $100,000 takes 7.8 years, the slowest stretch you'll ever experience. From $100,000 to $200,000, 5.1 years. From $200,000 to $300,000, 3.8 years. From $300,000 to $400,000, 3 years flat. You're adding the same $100,000 of wealth every time, but it takes less and less time to do it. Why? Because at $100,000 invested at 7%, your portfolio is generating $7,000 per year on its own. That's 70% of your entire annual contribution working without you. By $300,000, that number is $21,000. By $500,000, your investments are generating $35,000 per year. Your money gets a job. And unlike you, it doesn't ask for a raise, doesn't call in sick, and doesn't get distracted by a $70,000 truck it saw on the highway. This is why $100,000 is the inflection point, not just a milestone. It's the moment compounding stops being a concept you nod at in YouTube videos and starts being a real, meaningful number in your account every year. So when does the typical American actually get there? Based on the Federal Reserve data, the median household crosses $100,000 somewhere around age 37 or 38. The under 35 median is $39,040. The 35 to 44 bracket is $135,100. The crossover happens in between, trending toward the late 30s for most people. Marcus, who we met at the top of this video, is 38 and sitting at $187,000. He's ahead of that median, not because he earned more, but because he started investing $400 per month at 24 and didn't stop. Not when he bought a car, not when he got a raise, not when he moved apartments, not when he started dating someone who had expensive taste in restaurants. He just didn't stop. Jamie, 12 minutes away, started a 401k at 28, cashed out $14,000 of it during a job change in his early 30s because it wasn't that much, restarted at a lower rate, and has about $31,000 today. Same starting line, very different mile markers. Kevin O'Leary, yes, the Shark Tank guy, famously says you should have $100,000 saved by 33. That's a fine goal. It also requires saving around 20% of your gross income starting at 22, which is roughly 5 times the national savings rate of about 4%. The median savings account balance for Americans aged 35 to 44 is $7,500, not $100,000, $7,500, which means O'Leary's target isn't wrong. It's just describing the experience of maybe 1 in 4 people in that age group, not the typical one. The savings rate is the real lever. On a $70,000 salary, saving 5% means about $290 per month. At that rate and 10% returns, you hit $100,000 in about 17 years. Save 15%, like $875 per month, and you get there in about 8 years. The income barely matters within a normal range. The rate is almost everything, and that rate gets silently eroded by car payments that feel manageable, subscriptions that multiplied when you weren't paying attention, and a lifestyle that expanded every time the salary did. You've hit $100,000. The compounding is real now. The math is actually working for you. Here's the part almost nobody talks about: why most people who hit $100,000 still never make it to $500,000. The $500,000 milestone, where most people hit the wall. Only about 25 to 30% of American households ever cross $500,000 in net worth, not 25 to 30% by retirement, ever. 3 out of 4 households spend their entire financial lives below this number. And yet the math of getting from $100,000 to $500,000 is objectively easier than the math of getting from $0 to $100,000. So why do most people stall? Here's what's supposed to happen. If you're investing $1,000 per month at 10% and you've already got $100,000 working, getting to $500,000 takes about 13 to 14 more years. During that stretch, something genuinely changes. By $300,000 invested at 10%, your portfolio generates $30,000 per year in returns, on top of your $12,000 in annual contributions. By $500,000, it's $50,000 per year. $50,000 a year from doing nothing except not selling. That is more than the median individual income in the United States. Your portfolio is earning a full-time salary for you while you're sitting in a meeting that could have been an email. The money just works. So why do most people stall between $100,000 and $500,000? 3 forces hitting right in the same decade. The first one is housing. The median home price to income ratio has gone from 3.2 times annual income in 1970 to roughly 5 times today. You currently need to earn about $107,000 per year to afford a median-priced home against a median household income of $84,000. That $23,000 annual gap doesn't disappear. It means people are either buying homes that consume 40% of take-home pay, leaving almost nothing to invest, or renting in expensive markets where the landlord collects the portion of their income that would otherwise be compounding. The second force is the car payment. Meet someone who's 29 and just signed a $735 a month car payment. Totally normal. Basically, everyone does it. Here's what that decision actually costs them: $735 per month over the next 30 years, invested at 10% instead, compounds to $1.66 million. They didn't buy a car. They bought a car with a $1.66 million price tag. It's just that the price isn't on the sticker. It's paid quietly in the future in the form of the wealth that never existed. The third force is the Henry trap. Henry stands for high earner, not rich yet. According to Pimp's Intelligence, 50% of Americans earning $100,000 or more live paycheck to paycheck. At $200,000 to $300,000, the paycheck to paycheck rate drops to 16%. Then, and this is my personal favorite data point in this entire video, at $300,000 to $500,000 in income, the rate climbs back up to 41%. Apparently, at that income level, you find even more sophisticated ways to consume every dollar you earn, which I have to respect as a genuine commitment to the bit. The point is, income alone doesn't build wealth. The gap between what you earn and what you keep builds wealth. For the people who do make it to $500,000, and some do, it's not impossible, the experience is different in a specific way. Marcus is on track to cross $500,000 around age 47 or 48. What that looks like practically, his investments will be generating roughly $40,000 to $50,000 per year on their own. He'll have margin, the ability to handle an unexpected expense, say no to something, take a lower paying job he actually likes without the whole structure collapsing. Jamie, 12 minutes away, is working on year 3 of a plan to pay off the credit card by July. He's said that before. The $1 million milestone. The math everyone gets wrong. Let me tell you what the data actually shows about who becomes a millionaire because it is almost the exact opposite of what most people picture. About 18% of US households, roughly 23.7 million, qualify as net worth millionaires. That sounds impressive until you remember that 18% means 82% don't. And of the ones who do, the profile isn't what you'd expect. The Ramsey Solutions National Study of Millionaires surveyed over 10,000 people who had crossed the threshold. Result, 79% received zero inheritance. One-third had never earned six figures in a single year. The average age of first reaching $1 million was 49, after an average of 28 years of consistent investing. Not aggressive, not lucky, just consistent, boring, didn't stop when life got complicated investing. The average age of all American millionaires is 61. The median is 62. The most common experience of reaching $1 million is getting there right before or shortly after retirement, which means you technically have it, but you don't get 30 or 40 years of living with it. You get a more comfortable retirement than most. That's genuinely worth something. It's just not the financial independence people picture when they imagine seven figures. Now, here's the math that determines which side of this you end up on. Using the S&P 500's historical 10% annual return, here's what you need to invest each month to reach $1 million by age 65. Start at 22, $117 per month. That's $117. One mildly irresponsible weekend per month stands between a 22-year-old and $1 million by retirement. Start at 25, $158. Start at 30, $263. Start at 35, $443. Start at 40, $754. Start at 45, $1,300 per month. Every 5 years, you delay roughly doubles what you have to invest. The 22-year-old who invests $117 per month will contribute about $60,000 of their own money over 43 years. The 40-year-old investing $754 per month will put in over $226,000. Same destination. Same $1 million at the end. One person contributed $60,000. The other contributed $226,000. The math is not neutral on this. Here's the more visceral version. Every dollar invested at 22 becomes roughly $88 by age 65 at 10% returns. At 30, that same dollar becomes $33. At 40, $12. At 50, about $4.70. You're not just losing a few years of growth when you delay. You're trading $88 worth of future wealth for $4.70 worth of future wealth, and using the difference to fund the lifestyle you have right now, which is a more expensive lifestyle than it looks. And before the comments, yes, $1 million in 30 years won't feel the same as $1 million today. A 2024 Schwab survey found that Americans think you need $2.5 million to be considered wealthy. Empower Research puts the number for financial success at $5.3 million. So the target is moving. $1 million is increasingly a floor, not a ceiling, which makes starting later even more costly than the raw numbers suggest. And here's something worth saying about the millionaire profile that often gets lost. 79% of them got there with no inheritance. A third never earned six figures. The average Fidelity 401k millionaire is 59 years old, earned under $150,000 annually, and saved 17% or more consistently for 26 years at the same company. Not a high earner who caught a lucky break. A consistent saver who picked a direction and didn't change it while life happened around them. That's the whole strategy. It sounds anticlimactic. That's the point. Let me put the full picture together, because I want you to leave this video with a clear map, not just a collection of data points. The median American hits $100,000 around age 37 or 38. The median American hits $500,000 if they hit it at all, like in their late 40s to early 50s, tracking at roughly the 75th percentile of wealth. The median American millionaire first crosses $1 million around age 49 after 28 years of consistent investing, with the typical millionaire arriving closer to 61 or 62. Those are the people who make it. Most don't. The median American household peaks at $410,000 before retirement. 65% of consumers live paycheck to paycheck. 33% have zero retirement savings at any age. The median retirement savings for Americans aged 55 to 64, the last decade before retirement, is $185,000, against a self-reported comfortable retirement target of $1.26 million. That is a 93% shortfall at the finish line after a full working life. Here's the part I want to be honest about. This is structurally harder than it used to be, and it's not primarily because people are making worse decisions. Housing now costs 5 times the median income compared to 3.2 times in 1970. College tuition is up roughly 1,200% since 1980. Student loan balances total $1.6 trillion. The average borrower carries $39,375, and every dollar of that debt delays the start of compounding. The margin between income and essential costs has been compressed to near zero for a large portion of the population. The people living paycheck to paycheck on $84,000 a year are not primarily making poor choices. They are navigating a steeper hill than the generation whose benchmarks we're all still using. That's not an excuse to give up on the milestones. It's an honest reason why the people who do hit them deserve actual credit for navigating a more expensive obstacle course than their parents did, and why the people who haven't should direct at least some of their frustration at the structure rather than at themselves. So here's where we land. Most people hit $100,000 in their late 30s. Most people hit $500,000 if they hit it in their late 40s to early 50s. Most millionaires get there around 49 to 62, depending on when they started. And most people, the median household, retire with $410,000, never crossing either of the top 2 milestones at all. None of that is destiny. It's a description of what happens when people navigate the financial system on autopilot, letting expenses grow to match income, treating car payments as fixed costs, treating investing as optional, and planning to get serious about it after the next raise. The timelines look completely different for people who make a few specific decisions early and don't reverse them when things get complicated. Marcus is going to hit $500,000 around 47. He'll probably hit $1 million around 58 if markets cooperate. He's not exceptional. He started at 24, kept a low car payment, didn't cash out his 401k when he changed jobs, and let compounding do its job. That's the whole story. Jamie has time. He's 38. If he eliminates the credit card debt in the next 18 months, gets the savings rate to 15%, and stops treating car payments as the cost of adult life, he can still build something real. He has to do it now, though. Not after the next raise, not after the holidays, not when things calm down. Things don't calm down. The timeline just gets more expensive. $117 per month at 22, $263 at 30, $443 at 35, $754 at 40, same destination, different price tag. The only variable is when you start. If this made your timeline feel real, not abstract, but actual, hit the like button. I'll see you in the next one.